Good afternoon, Ma. Last class we discussed about the allotropes of phosphorus and then the other compounds of phosphorus like phosphorus trichloride, phosphorus pentachloride, and phosgene, their preparation, their properties and uses. One important use of phosgene is home signal. So, sorry, not phosgene, phosphine. It is home signal we saw, and then the other phosphorus trichloride, pentachloride, and all, along with the structures we discussed in the last class. I hope you all remember. That is phosphorus tetroxide, phosphorus pentoxide, with their proper structures we discussed. Today we are going to see the oxoacids of phosphorus, their structure, that is structure of oxoacids of phosphorus. So here we have 5 structures. One is hypophosphorus acid H3PO2, the other one is orthophosphorus acid H3PO3, and hypophosphoric H4P2O6, orthophosphoric H3PO4, and pyrophosphoric H4P2O7. So if you see here, you have hypophosphorus and then hypophosphoric, orthophosphorus and orthophosphoric, and pyrophosphoric. So what is the difference between the molecular formula for hypophosphorus and hypophosphoric? You have to multiply the number of hydrogens. You have to add one hydrogen, so H4, and add one phosphorus, H4P2, and 3 times of oxygen, O6. Okay, and then orthophosphoric acid means it is H3PO3 means orthophosphorus, orthophosphoric means H3PO4, so one oxygen will be extra, and pyrophosphoric means H4P2O7. So how to remember the structure? So one common thing, if you observe in all the structure, this is common, that is P double bond O and OH is common in all the structure. So the remaining from the molecular formula you have to fill in the structure. So you have to be very thorough with the molecular formula, only then you can write the structure. So hypophosphorus means H3PO2, orthophosphorus means H3PO3. So if you remember that in order or in other ways, if you can remember, means you just remember, from there only you can get. But this P double bond OH, this unit will remain in all the structure. So let's see how to write the structure now. H3PO2 is here now, so first put P, OH and double bond O. So you have to fill 2 oxygen is over, so oxygen is over, then 1 phosphorus is over, then 1 hydrogen is over, 2 more hydrogen, 1 hydrogen here, the other hydrogen here. That's all. Is it clear? Next is H3PO3. H3PO3, same way you put P double bond O, OH you put. So this is over. So 1 phosphorus over, then 2 oxygens over, 1 more oxygen is here. So put 1 oxygen anywhere on the either side, any of the sides of the remaining 4 sides. Then 2 hydrogens. So 1 hydrogen if it comes here, means the other hydrogen will definitely goes to the oxygen, go and pair up with the oxygen. Clear? Next is H4P2O6. So H4P2, P2 means definitely you have to put P bond P. Okay, then each phosphorus will have double bond O and OH, and this phosphorus will have double bond OOH. So the remaining hydrogen and oxygen should be paired here as OH. Clear? Next is orthophosphoric acid H3PO4. So same way put P double bond OH, remaining as OH and OH. Pyrophosphoric alone, pyro, you have to remember POP. The bond should be phosphorus, oxygen and phosphorus. So you don't forget to put P, O and P. Then you put for each phosphorus you give P double bond OH, P double bond OH. The remaining hydrogen and oxygen as OH here. So this is very simple when you compare with the other oxy acids of nitrogen, anything oxo acids or oxy acids of nitrogen. If you compare, this is very simple. One thing you have to remember is P double bond O and OH you put first, and pyrophosphoric alone if it comes means phosphorus, oxygen and phosphorus. This bond should be there. Okay, so remaining as usual for each phosphorus double bond O and OH you will put, and then you will fill the remaining here. Clear? we are moving on to the preparation of these oxoacids of phosphorus. Hypophosphorus acid, the oxidation of phosphorus in H3PO2 is +1. So if you calculate and see, it will be very simple to calculate. You just calculate and see. Preparation, you have to react with phosphorus with water, you will get H3PO2. Orthophosphorus acid, the phosphorus oxidation state is +3. So you have to take P4O6, reacting that with water, you will get H3PO3. And hypophosphorus acid, if you take, means the you have to react that with phosphorus, oxygen and water, so that you will get hypophosphorus acid. And the oxidation state of phosphorus is +4. And orthophosphoric acid H3PO4 is the oxidation state of phosphorus is 5. You have to react phosphorus pentoxide with water, so that you will get H3PO4. And pyrophosphoric acid, the oxidation state of phosphorus is +5. And you have to just react 2 times of orthophosphoric acid, so that you will get H4P2O7. Moving on to the next part of this chapter, the next group 16. So we have completed group 14 and 15, sorry, not 14 is in the second lesson. Group 15 we have completed nitrogen group, and now we are coming to the oxygen group, that is the 16th group, oxygen group elements. So where does this, how much this oxygen is occurring in this world? Elements belonging to group 16 are called chalcogens, and ore forming elements are most of the ores are oxides or sulfides. So these are called as what? Chalcogens, and they are ore forming. Chalcogens mean what? Ore forming elements. The meaning itself ore forming only, as most of these ores are oxides or sulfides only. First element, oxygen, the most abundant element, exists in both in air, that is dioxygen in air, and its combined form is oxide also. The first element, oxygen, it is present in air also, and also in the forms of oxides also. And oxygen and sulfur makes up about 46.6% and 0.034 and of Earth's crust by weight respectively, that is its accuracy. Sulfur exists as sulfates like gypsum and Epsom salt, and sulfide as galena and zinc blend, and it is also present in volcanic ashes. And the other elements in these groups are scarce and are often found as selenites, tellurites along with sulfide ores. Now moving on to the physical property. So if you see, except first element, all the others are gases. Their atomic number is increasing. They all have their own isotopes, and atomic mass is also increasing. The electronic configuration is given. Density is also increasing. Melting point is increasing, and boiling point is increasing. First element, oxygen. Their preparation, properties and uses we will see now. Oxygen. First, its preparation. The atmosphere and water contain 23 to 83% by mass of oxygen respectively. So how much it is containing? 23% and 83% by mass of oxygen respectively. And most of the world's rock contain combined oxygen. The rock itself is containing combined oxygen, and industrially oxygen is obtained by fractional distillation of liquefied air. So we all know now oxygen is very much needed for us during this pandemic time. So it is how it is prepared in industries, so that it is given in hospitals also. Fractional distillation of liquefied air means they will filter the air, they will liquefy the air first, and then by fractional distillation they will convert this. In the laboratory, how it is prepared in laboratories, you see, that is in a small scale. Oxygen is prepared by one of the following methods. So we have so many methods. The decomposition of hydrogen peroxide in the presence of catalyst manganese dioxide, or by oxidation with potassium permanganate also you can prepare. Equation is given, see, simple equations only. And also by thermal decomposition of metallic oxides. So if you decompose any metallic oxides, it will break down into metal and its own oxygen. So mercuric oxide into mercury and oxygen, barium oxide into barium oxide and oxygen, potassium perchlorate into potassium chloride and oxygen, potassium nitrate into potassium nitrite and oxygen. And its properties under ordinary condition, oxygen exists as a diatomic gas. How it is existing? It exists as a diatomic gas, and oxygen is paramagnetic. And like nitrogen and fluorine, oxygen forms strong hydrogen bonds. So like nitrogen and fluorine, how it forms? They form strong hydrogen bonds and exist in two allotropic forms, namely dioxygen, the other one is trioxygen. So it has two allotropic forms, namely O2 and O3, that is ozone is O3. And although negligible amounts of ozone occur at sea level, it is formed in the upper atmosphere by the action of ultraviolet rays. So it is formed in the upper atmosphere only. In the laboratory, ozone is prepared by passing electrical discharge through an oxygen. So you have to pass electrical discharge, electric current through oxygen at a potential of 20,000 volts. About 10% of oxygen is converted into ozone. So see, around 20,000 volts, only 10% it is getting converted into ozone. It gives a mixture of known as ozonized oxygen. And pure ozone is obtained as a pale blue gas by a fractional distillation of liquefied ozonized air, that is oxygen. And oxygen, first it provides atomic oxygen. That atomic oxygen reacts with another molecule of oxygen to give ozone. Can you see the structure here? Structure could be asked in 2 marks. The ozone molecule has a bent shape and symmetrical with delocalized bonding between the oxygen atom. Next is moving on to its chemical properties. The chemical property of oxygen and ozone, they differ very vastly. So it is entirely different. So oxygen combines with many metals and non-metals to form oxides. With some elements such as S block elements, combination of oxygen occurs at room temperature. So some of the less reactive metals reacts with powdered finely and made to react exothermically with oxygen at room temperature, but a lump of metal is unaffected under same condition. So these finely divided metals are known as pyrophoric, and which set the powder on fire. That is, the finely divided metals, we are calling it as pyrophoric. So they are in a powder form when they become, which means they are in a powder form. So if you put on fire, heat is liberated during this reaction. So on the other hand, ozone is powerful oxidizing agent, and it reacts with many substances under conditions where oxygen will not react. So for example, it oxidizes potassium iodide to iodine, and this reaction is quantitative and can be used for the estimation of ozone also. So how it is estimated? Ozone reacts with Ki and water to give KOH, that is potassium hydroxide, oxygen and iodine. And ozone is very commonly used for oxidation of organic compounds in acidic solution, and ozone exceeds the oxidizing power of fluorine and atomic oxygen. So the rate of decomposition of ozone drops sharply in alkaline solution. So uses: oxygen is one of the most essential component for the survival of living organisms, so we all know that. And it is used in welding also, that is oxyacetylene welding. And liquid oxygen is used as fuel in rockets also. Allotropic forms of sulfur exist in crystalline as well as amorphous allotropic forms. The crystalline form includes rhombic sulfur and monoclinic sulfur. Rhombic sulfur is otherwise called as alpha sulfur, and monoclinic sulfur is otherwise called as beta sulfur. And the amorphous allotropic form includes plastic sulfur, which is gamma sulfur, and milk of sulfur and colloidal sulfur. So first is monoclinic sulfur, is also known as alpha sulfur, is the only thermodynamically stable allotropic form at ordinary temperature and pressure. That is, at room temperature and on atmospheric pressure, only rhombic sulfur can be stable. And the crystals have characteristic yellow color, and it composed of S8 molecules. And when they are heated above 96 degrees Celsius, they will get converted into monoclinic sulfur. So upon cooling 96 degree, the beta form converts back to alpha form, which means monoclinic will come back to rhombic form. on cooling. Okay, so monoclinic sulfur also contain S8 molecules in addition to a small amount of S6 molecules also. It exists as a long needle like prism and is also called as prismatic sulfur. It is stable between 96 degrees Celsius to 119 degrees Celsius and slowly changes into rhombic sulfur. So when molten sulfur is poured into a cold water, yellow rubbery ribbon of plastic sulfur is produced. They are very soft and can be stretched easily. So on standing, it slowly becomes hard and changes into a stable rhombic sulfur. And sulfur also exists in liquid and gaseous states. At around 140 degrees Celsius, the monoclinic sulfur melts to form mobile pale yellow liquid called lambda sulfur. So at which degree, so all these are objectives, at which degree which sulfur will be formed, what happens to that if you cool down. So 140 degree la monoclinic will melt to form an pale yellow. Mobile means it is a flowing kind of a yellow liquid, pale yellow liquid, which is a lambda sulfur. The vapor over the liquid sulfur consists of 90% of S8, S7 and S6 and small amount of mixture of S2, S3, S4 and S5 molecules. So finally moving on to this sulfur dioxide. So how this is prepared? From sulfur, how it is prepared? So it is reacted with oxygen to give sulfur dioxide and 3 molecules of oxygen to give sulfur trioxide. And then from sulfides, when sulfide ores such as galena, that is PBS, lead sulfide and zinc blend or roasted in air, sulfur dioxide is liberated. Large amount of sulfur dioxide required for manufacturing of sulfuric acid and industrial purposes is prepared in this method. So zinc sulfide reacts with oxygen to give zinc oxide and sulfur dioxide, and iron sulfide reacts with oxygen to give iron oxide and sulfur dioxide. So in laboratories, they are generally prepared by reacting copper with sulfuric acid to give sulfur dioxide, and sulfate ion reacts with a proton to give an water and sulfur dioxide. So their properties are, they are found in volcanic eruptions, and the large amount of sulfur dioxide gas is released into atmosphere from power plants using coal and oil and copper melting plants. So many of these industries, it is released in the atmosphere. It is a colorless gas with a suffocating odor, so it is not in a good it is not good for breathing. There if we are means we feel suffocating. If it's, and it is also highly soluble in water, and it is 2.2 times heavier than air also. Sulfur dioxide can be liquefied at 263 Kelvin, at 2.5 atmospheric pressure and 288 Kelvin. Their chemical properties, if you react that with water, you will get sulfurous acid. That sulfurous acid will decompose to give a proton and sulfate ion. Reaction with sodium hydroxide and sodium carbonate. So it reacts with sodium hydroxide to give sodium bisulfite and sodium sulfite with sodium carbonate. Okay, equations are here. So first, sulfur dioxide reacts with sodium hydroxide to give sodium bisulfite, and sodium carbonate reacts to give sodium bisulfite. That on further reaction will give sodium sulfite. And its oxidizing property, sulfur dioxide oxidizes hydrogen sulfite to sulfur and magnesium to magnesium oxide, that is H2S2 sulfur, and Mg and SO2 sulfur dioxide. It oxidizes. So it oxidizes means what? It supplies oxygen, or if the other one is removal of hydrogen. So it is removing hydrogen from sulfur. So here it is giving oxygen to magnesium to form their oxides. And its reducing property, as it can readily be oxidized, it acts as a reducing agent. It reduces chlorine into hydrochloric molecule, that is hydrochloric acid. So chlorine will be get reduced to, which means reduction means what here? gives hydrogen. So hydrogen is added to chlorine, so it is getting reduced. It also reduces potassium permanganate and dichromate, which is to Mn2 plus and Cr3 plus. So potassium permanganate like KMnO4 la irukra manganese ion will get converted into Mn2 plus, and K2Cr2O7 la irukra chromium will get converted into Cr3 plus. And reaction with oxygen, it reacts with oxygen to give sulfur trioxide, and this is used for the manufacture of sulfuric acid by contact process, very important. And bleaching action of sulfur dioxide is, in the presence of water, sulfur dioxide bleaches colored wool, silk sponges and straw into colorless due to the reducing property. Not only this, the white color of sugar, the table sugar, whatever we are using, it's completely white color because of the sulfur dioxide. It changes the color into completely white. So it is highly not recommended, but still we are using. So brown sugar is very good for health. However, the bleached product is allowed to stand in air. It is reoxidized by atmospheric oxygen to its original color. So hence bleaching action of sulfur is only temporary. So finally, its uses. It is used in bleaching hair, silk and wool. Okay, so normally our facial creams or any hair creams we are using means it contains the sulfur dioxide, and it can also be used for disinfecting crops and plants in agriculture. And finally, moving on to structure of sulfur dioxide. In sulfur dioxide, sulfur atom undergoes sp2 hybridization. So hybridization of sulfur is sp2. Okay, so two sigma bonds are here and one lone pair of electron on sulfur. So 3 pairs of electron if you consider means sp2 hybridized. A double bond arises between sulfur and oxygen due to p pi d pi overlapping. There's a double bond. So that is the structure. Again, this will be asked in 2 marks. So today we have discussed the structure of oxo acids of phosphorus, and group 16 we have started. So we saw the sulfur allotropes and the preparation of oxygen and ozone, their physical properties, chemical properties and oxygen uses, and finally we moved on to the sulfur dioxide, its preparation, properties and uses. So next class we will start from the sulfuric acid. Thank you.